Hey everybody, and it is a privilege today. It really, really, really is. And I had a thought not too long ago of really diving into some of the individuals who have impacted me the greatest in terms of personal development. But unfortunately, some of these individuals are no longer here. And Wayne Dyer was one of those individuals that I came across as I was telling his daughter that was the complete opposite of many speakers whom I had thought were gurus and whatnot. And then here comes a man who, oh, I could only imagine has such a sweet heart. And hearing him speak and impact lives and impact my life on a way in which his words weren't very loud, but you felt each and every single one. So in reaching out to people, I knew that Serena had to be the first one because, and I found out about her because she has a brand new book that we're going to talk about today as well. And Serena Dyer is a mother of three. Obviously, Wayne Dyer's daughter is a big advocate of fighting the fight against human trafficking. In fact, that's what she has her master's degree in from Miami University. And she's just a wonderful person. As we've been talking here for about 15 minutes or so, it's just so great getting to know you, Serena. And I thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And let me just give you one correction. It is the
Oh,
University of
oh
Miami. You said
goodness.
Miami University. I mean, come on, we're the U.
That reminds me of I had a friend that went to Ohio State, and
Oh, God.
he would correct me. He would go, wait, what did you just say? I would say, you went to Ohio, the
Yeah, yeah,
Ohio State University. So I get it.
yeah.
It's a pride thing. I apologize. But Serena, I regardless, and I'm a little envious in a way. I always wanted to Miami, the beaches. Oh goodness, it's probably so beautiful there, but all I could do is dream. I went to college in New York City. Nonetheless, I like I was just telling you, I could have a conversation with you all day, Serena, and just learning from you and the wealth of wisdom and knowledge that you have, both through your life experiences and your family. But I want to take the audience and myself back a little bit. What was it like growing up as Serena in the Dyer household with so many siblings that you had, which is awesome in my opinion? And then walk us through a little bit. What were the significant moments that led up to
Mhm.
where you are today?
Okay, so I could say I'm number 6 out of 8. So I definitely had a fun childhood, as anybody with a lot of brothers and sisters and close age could attest to. It was very fun, exciting home to be in. But I have said this before, and I will say it again. I think that the advantage of growing up in a spiritual home, or a home with very spiritual parents, the advantage is that you are taught from a very early age that there's no such thing as blame, and that you must take responsibility for everything that happens in your life. So that's an advantage because freedom exists there, power, the ability to choose what you bring to every experience. That all exists, right? When you have the understanding that you take responsibility for everything that shows up in your life. The downside is that you cannot blame, and it is not anybody else's fault. And sometimes you want to blame somebody else. Sometimes it feels good to say it's my teacher's fault, it's my boyfriend's fault, it's my mother's fault, And I think that the benefit of growing up in a spiritual household obviously outweighs the sort of silly but very real downside, which is that it's hard sometimes to take responsibility for everything that shows up in your life, um, because that means that it's up to you how you respond to the universe, and therefore it's also up to you how the universe responds to you. um, Sometimes it's easy to skate around. It's easier to skate around. At least I can imagine. I don't know. I wasn't raised in any other house but this one. So, but it was fun. It was fun. It was a beautiful experience.
And Serena, I have a question going off of that. A couple of questions, matter of fact. For those of you that are listening, and this is something that I've asked not a lot of people, a few people in my life, but we hear the term spiritual thrown around. How do you differentiate spiritual from religious?
Religion is very simply that in order to find God, you must find yourself in a temple. And spiritual is wherever you go, you carry the temple with you. If you want to find God, look in the mirror.
Mm.
You don't need to look at anybody else. And that's it. That's really it. It's spiritual is God exists within you and outside of you, and is always with you. Religion, my experience, and I have a bachelor's degree in this, and a little bit of a master's degree in this. I'm not a religious expert because I don't have a devotion to any particular religion. And I think that people that do might feel offended, if they think that I'm putting down their religion. But for me, if any institution, if any man, if any organization tells me that in order to find God, I must go to a building, well, I think that maybe they need to have a little dose of spirituality. So.
Well, that I think that's a very unique perspective, and I love that you said that you carry the temple with you where you go, and I think that's applicable to those that are religious and those that aren't religious, because I believe if you are religious, it's one thing to just go to church on Sundays, but it's another thing to actually act with and display your faith readily through your actions. And my other thing, Serena, is you said that as you grew up very spiritually, it also came with the realization in life later on that things are really hard. And sometimes it does feel like you want to blame people and so forth. So in your own household now, how do you balance spirituality with reality?
I think that's a great question. And I have never been asked that before. So it definitely gives me pause, but spirituality is reality. You are not a soul that is encased in your body. You are a body that is existing in your soul. Your soul exists outside of the barriers of your skin. Your soul permeates everything and is connected to everything. So spirituality is really having that understanding that you are connected to all things and that God exists in all things. And that is reality. And reality is that at any moment, you can choose the energy that you bring to what is happening to you. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. As I was mentioning briefly before we started recording, I had a son that was your age and he passed away, my stepson. And he passed away in 2017. He had an accidental drug overdose. And in 2015, I lost my dad. In 2015, my husband was indicted and arrested for like a white collar crime related thing relating to his business. He went on trial. Right at the end of his trial, he was acquitted of everything except one count, and he was found guilty of one count. Right after that, his son, my stepson, that my husband had had full custody of his entire life, had raised as a single father until we got together, he passed away. And then right after that, my husband was sentenced to 7 years in prison because of his one guilty count. And then on the day that we went to the prison for him to begin his start date, the judge reversed it. Long story short, but the judge reversed it. The judge literally, the government who had tried his case ended up filing a motion admitting that they had lied and withheld evidence during the trial. And because of that, the judge reversed it. So also in that time, I have had 3 kids. So every single aspect of stress, turmoil, fear, guilt, grief, shame, anxiety that you can imagine, I have had. And I had them all at once, and I had them all overlapping. And I had weight to lose because I had just had all these back-to-back babies. I mean, all of those things that I mentioned before were real painful things. But having weight to lose was like the thing that bothered me every day. It's like, it was such a dumb thing compared to the rest. But anyway, I had all these things, superficial and deep, that I was experiencing. And I kept saying, Devin, that once all the pieces in my life just finally fall into place, then I can have peace. Then I will lose weight. Then I will write this book. Then I will do all these things. But I was raised differently. I was raised to know that I have peace, and then all the pieces fall into place. And that peace is available and it exists within me. And I mean, Herman Melville wrote way before my time, so way, way before your time, in Moby Dick, he wrote about the insular Tahiti. He said that so in the soul of man lies one insular Tahiti. Tahiti is just another word for paradise, but surrounded by all of the horrors of the half-lived life. The insular Tahiti is the island full of peace and joy, but it's surrounded by the fear of not living out your dharma, of not fulfilling your dreams, of not being who you came here to be. So in other words, I was raised to know that I had that island within me, and that all of the things I wanted to attract into my life were available to me. But first I had to go here. I had to find it, and I had to come from it. So spirituality versus reality. Spirituality is reality if you make that choice. And I did not for so long until I finally did. And then all the pieces in my life fell into place.
That's some deep stuff right there, Serena. Wow.
It's like, maybe I need to like start adding in some like
no.
Kylie,
that was
Kylie
deep.
Jenner stuff.
That
Okay.
is no, please no. That was really
just
good in the terms that made me think. Wow, that made me go somewhere in myself that I don't typically go by myself. And
Right.
I appreciate that. I want to tell you that. Wow.
But let me just say that's because, and I both, because I never even thought of it until you posed the question, but we think of spirituality as a day job or as separate from reality, because we are not yet living from the place of knowing that we are God, that not that we are the Almighty God, but that we are a part of God, and altogether, all of us are God, right? But we still think of ourselves as tapping into spirituality. We haven't yet learned to just live it and to just always be that. But hey, you started at what, 15? I mean, you're on the right path. By like 50, you're going to be levitating and like you're going to be the new Gandhi.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That was amazing. And you said something there that I have to touch on. And that was about in Moby Dick, talking about being surrounded by people, or you alluded to yourself even. And I know I've had these times in my life where people are always getting ready to live, right? I'm always getting ready to live. All right, I'm going to do it when I got all the money, when I got all the resource, when I got all the time, when I got all of this, that. And one of the things that your dad said, and I know that you're a fan of as well, is don't die with your best music still in you.
Right.
So for everybody that's listening, and by the way, if you don't know who Wayne Dyer is, folks, people that are listening, if you want to listen to the most enlightening discussions and conversations that you will ever listen to, I highly recommend go anywhere on the internet and just look up Wayne Dyer and just press on the first thing. But please go ahead and describe and discuss. And I'm curious, has he ever had any discussions with you around that topic of not dying with your best music still in you?
Well, yes. I mean, absolutely. The first book I wrote was actually titled that because it was the number one most important lesson that he had set out to teach me and my brothers and sisters. The idea being that each of us comes here with a dharma, which is just another way of saying a purpose. We all come here with a purpose. We all come here, and I call this incarnation, this lifetime, our time as a human in this form. I think of it as the classroom. As Ram Dass, who again is somebody that is my dad's age and is a spiritual guru. He was one of the only two professors ever to be kicked out of Harvard after having received tenure because he created LSD. Him and Timothy Leary created LSD. Anyway, he's a really good friend of my dad. Became a very famous spiritual guru. And I grew up with him, and going to see him on Maui. And and both of them, my dad and Ramdas, talked a lot about this idea of having a dharma, of having something that you came here to do, something that the word enthusiasm in ancient Greek, it breaks down to entheosiasm, the God within, something that calls the God within you into action. And not dying with your music still in you is about not getting to the end of your life and realizing that you lived a lie, or that you fulfilled the career that your parents wanted you to fulfill, or you married the person that your pastor or rabbi told you to marry, or you danced somebody else's dance. And I was encouraged as a child and into my adulthood to just fully embrace who I am, with no expectation that I be anything other than me. And that by doing that, I was honoring the highest part of myself. And that's really what it means to not die with your music still in you, to not regret at the end of your life that you lived a lie, that you got an F in the classroom.
Yeah, and that is one of the 5 regrets of the dying, I believe the book is called. I have it. I was reading through the first regret, and in fact, that's the first regret. That is the first regret that I wish I would. It is. I wish I would have lived a life that was true to myself.
Right.
And there is such a heart-touching story in the book, but I had to bring it up because it's exactly what you are talking about, and that's what I live by as well. That's what motivates me. But I'm curious, was there ever a point in your life where, despite growing up constantly hearing this, where you found yourself falling into the thinking of the masses, or trying to fit in, or giving into peer pressure? Was there ever a period of that where you kind of lost your way in a little bit?
Yes, but not like that. I didn't lose my way in terms of peer pressure or falling into the masses, but during the time of all of those things that I just listed, all the difficult things that took place in my life that started in 2015, during that time, when one thing after the other just kept happening, and I was viewing these things as bad karma, bad energy, because I was raised to believe that the universe is responding to you, or in other words, The Secret got it wrong. You don't get in life what you want, you get what you are. So because I was raised to believe that we get what we are, and I was experiencing all of these difficult things, these bad things in such a short period of time, back to back to back in close succession, I lost my connection to myself, because I bought into the idea that I deserved these things, that karmically they were owed to me, that I attracted them. I felt that I deserved them, and that I wasn't worth or worthy of feeling anything but shame. Shame because I knew better, shame because I was raised better, shame because I had all these privileges growing up, and here I was having all these bad things happen. And I really had a massive chunk of my life focused on feeling shame. And so I absolutely lost my connection to my spirituality, because spirituality is the opposite of shame. It's the recognition of the God within, of God, not the God meaning like I deserve all the praise and the money and the ladies and the whatever. It's God meaning I offer peace and love and forgiveness to everyone and everything in my path, including myself.
And Serena, I got to ask, you went through some really tough times. What advice do you give to somebody, especially in times of the pandemic? And thankfully, things are looking a bit better, but gosh, in 2020, they were bad. What do you tell somebody who is going through what seems to be hell for them? And I want to say, I admire your strength and courage of getting through those times. And it's incredible to see how you maybe not overcame them, because I'm sure a lot of that still lives with you, but you got through it, and you're better on the other side. Amazing to see. So what advice would you give to somebody that's going through something difficult right now?
Okay, so let me ask you real quick. Have you served overseas yet? Have you
No,
been in?
I have not.
Okay, okay. If you were in a battle in Fallujah, and it was a battle where people were dying, what would be the only thing that you could tell them, or that you could tell yourself, that would give you some peace? For me, and this is going to sound crazy, but for me, that would be that I signed up to experience this, that I'm okay with going through it, that I'm going to come out the other side, that I will have an understanding of why I'm in the shit or the turmoil or the Fallujah, because there's a part of me that before I even came here told God I wanted to do two things. I want to grow and I want to expand. And that's what every soul wants to do. We want to grow and we want to expand. We want to grow in terms of our connection to others, and we want to expand in terms of our connection to God, our understanding of God. So if you were in that battle and you had that knowing within you that you signed up to experience this because you wanted to grow, and you knew that you would grow from this experience if you survived it, wouldn't that be all the encouragement in the world that you would need? That you yourself knew on some level that you needed this, or that you would be okay with it. And if you weren't, you'd go home to God. I mean, that's what I would say to myself, which I know sounds crazy because it's not like this like really easily frameable motivational quote that we all like, you know, like when you don't know who's walking beside you, God is carrying you. Like we all love these like really, I don't know why that popped into my head, but there is a quote like that. But what if you could take the opposite approach, which is that all of these difficulties are not happening to you. You're not bad. You didn't deserve them. They're not karmically, energetically falling on your lap. They're here to teach you something. They're here to help you do what you came here to do, which is to grow. Can you stay awake enough to get the teaching? That's up to you.
That was good. I love that, because Dennis Waitley once said that losers live in the past, winners learn from the past and are working to. Winners learn from the past, apply those lessons to their present, and are working towards their future. But the only way we could acknowledge the things that we've gone through in the past and gain a lesson is, I think, exactly what you just said, but being present in the moment. Wow, that was incredible. I could go on a long, long time about that, but we're not going to go there right now, Serena, because I want to ask. A lot of people ask celebrity or, I almost forgot. Okay. Your dad taught at my university. Okay. St. John's University.
John's? Oh my God.
And I thought it was hysterical when I saw that. I said, no way. This is something. This is amazing. So I just wanted, because I knew it was going to escape my mind. I meant to tell you beforehand, but I didn't. But it was just funny. I had to throw that in there. But Serena, speaking of your father, a lot of people might ask, what is it like? What was it like living with him? I'm more concerned of what were some of the main lessons through his actions, more so than his words. What did you learn from his actions that you now take and implement in your life?
The biggest lesson, and I can tell you exactly what that is because I think about it all the time. Because I've been asked before, like, what is the greatest lesson your dad ever taught you? And I always say it's not something he said, it's something he did. So I can tell you exactly what that is. He fulfilled his dharma. He did not tell me to follow my dreams while he was simultaneously sacrificing his own. Because children, sometimes what you say to them, sometimes what you do in front of them is so loud, they can't hear what you're saying. children model who you are, not what you say. And who my dad was somebody who was willing to go after his own dreams and was willing to miss things I didn't want him to miss. Like my, 17th basketball game of the season when I was on the bench the whole time, but I wanted him to be there. And he was willing to have to do the work and to show up, because going after his own dreams was so important to him. So the greatest lesson that he gave me, the greatest gift I got from him was that I can do the same. Was that he didn't sacrifice his own and tell me to follow mine. He demonstrated, he lived, he walked what it means to go out and follow your dreams and fulfill your dharma. And on some subconscious level, that gave me permission to do the same.
Would you be willing to share with us something that the people might not know about your dad, but that you would like to share with people that they just might not know, but they should know about Wayne Dyer?
Okay, let me think. There's so many things. One is that towards the last, I would say 5 years of his life, he was obsessed with coffee enemas. So that might be like a little TMI, but it's the first thing that came to mind. He used to say that the best part of waking up is Folgers in your butt, not Folgers in your cup. So I think that that's a pretty unique thing. Something that I think people that went to his talks or listened to him back when it was tapes and then CDs would probably know, but not know the extent of, was he was truly a big kid. He never lost his childishness. And I mean that in the best possible way. He still would find a rainbow and be like blown away. And in Maui, I mean, the license plates in Hawaii are all rainbows because they're every day you see a rainbow. And he lived there, and every time he would see a rainbow, it would be, "Oh, did you see that rainbow? Look at the rainbow!" Or, "Come on, the sunset's happening," as if he had never seen a sunset before. But Rumi, the ancient Persian poet, said, "Sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. Be bewildered, be in awe." And he embodied that, and he really embodied that. And I have children that are little, 2, 4, and 6, and they see a rainbow and they're blown away. And it reminds me to go ahead and let go of everything I think I know and just marvel at this incredible universe that God has created. And I loved that about him. I loved his childishness.
That made him special, huh?
Yeah, and it made him easy to be around and fun and judgment free. I mean, children don't judge. Children are taught to judge, but children just don't. It's not most children's natural inclination to find fault, to criticize, to judge, to gossip. They learn it, they mimic it. But I think that you would be hard pressed to find a 2-year-old that didn't see somebody hurting and go up to give them a hug. That didn't say, "I love you" to anybody, to a stranger, and smile and wave at them. I have a 2-year-old. It's not me as a mother. It's just who they are. They come here and they wave to everybody. And it's like, "Oh, you don't know that person. Don't say hi to him." But they don't see that. They see the unfolding of God in everybody. And who wouldn't want to try and be more like that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a way that we should all live. Absolutely. That is incredible. Now, Serena, let's talk a little bit about this new book that just came out, The Knowing. And it was funny. I was just telling you, it was good. Coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. And I was in Bob Proctor's coaching call, and here he goes towards the end of the call, bringing up The Knowing. And he was talking about an experience. I forgot exactly which one it was because he brought up a couple, but he was just diving into such detail. And I was blown away. Whoa. This girl here, this woman and her sister are making an impact with this book, The Knowing, and I see all these big time Instagram pages with millions of followers sharing it. Really, really awesome to see, and especially getting to know you a little more and understanding your heart, where it is and why you're doing it. It's great to see, Serena. And I want to share with the audience a little bit about this book. So tell us the name of the book and then dive into a little summary of what it's about. And I'll ask you some questions from there.
Okay, let me grab a copy so I can show you. Okay, let me see. I got one here. Because I mean, come on, what is a promo without showing the image in today's day and age? So it's called The Knowing. And the reason Sage, my sister, and I, we co-authored this book together. And the reason she's not here joining us is because she's in labor. She's actually at the hospital in New York where she lives. She lives in Tribeca. And so she's actually there having her second baby. But so obviously I send all my love to my sister who's in labor because
congratulations.
I know.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, I know, it's really exciting. But let me just say that she and I co-authored this book together, and we called it The Knowing because we were originally leaning toward the title Remembering, because we felt as though throughout the writing process there was this theme of remembering that kept coming up. It's almost like you don't discover God, right? You remember God because it's always within you. And we were going to title it Remembering because we thought, well, okay, it will be like we remembered our dad's lessons and we're kind of reflecting on our childhoods. We're remembering those memories, and we're learning to tap back into our own knowing. But our publisher was like, absolutely not. You say the knowing so many times in this book that if you called it anything other than that, it would be crazy. And I was like, wow, you're right, A. And B, it's such a better title. And C, I think somebody really famous just came out with a book called Remembering. So it's good that we didn't. But because you can't copyright a book title. But anyway, yeah, we wrote this book separately at first. We both found Sage had published a children's book before my dad passed away, and I had published a book with my dad. We co-authored it together before he passed away. So we had both kind of been writing, and we both found a lot of comfort after he passed in writing. And then as we got to talking about our different stories that we were writing about, we realized that we were like writing the same experiences or memories or stories or understandings, but from different perspectives. So we just combined it. Luckily, we had an editor help us do that. But yeah, so I can't believe that it's only been out for a month, and I can't believe it's been getting picked up in some of the ways that it has been. And I absolutely know, not to be cheesy and cliche and call him the title, but I absolutely know that my dad is arranging those pieces, and so is Mason. So is my stepson Mason.
Yes, and God bless Mason's soul. And I feel for you, and that is a tough situation. But this leads to my question: in the process that you're writing that book, those that you lost very recently,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel like, although they're no longer here, that they are living through you and in you throughout that process?
So I don't feel that. I do not feel that they are living in me or through me. I feel that they are still here.
I love that.
I feel very strongly that as I said before, your body is in your soul, not the other way around. Our soul exists outside of the body. Our soul is here and their soul is here. And heaven is a state of mind, not a place to be. And I feel very strongly that both my dad and my son are a thought, a frequency away, that they are no longer bound by the constraints of the body, but they're just as present. In fact, I know that they are. And in the book, I went through like so many examples of irrefutable signs, synchronicities, as what did Bob Proctor say, coincidences. I went through so many of these that were just beyond words, beyond understanding, beyond explanation, beyond rational thinking. Proof. And actually, I even posted one on my Instagram yesterday about the proof. And I could go into that. I don't know I don't know if you want to cut me off. I don't know how much time you have, but I can tell you that story because I have had
Tell me, Serena,
proof.
tell me, because I came across one and I wonder if it's the one that you're going to share, but let me hear what you got.
What was the one you came across?
The one I came across was the one of the podcast that you had. I came across a story where your dad had passed away and you were
the day he died.
Mm-hmm.
The day he died. Yes. Okay. So that was the first one. That on the day he died, I was on the phone with his assistant as she found his body. So I had to experience that live on the phone, which was very traumatizing. And I didn't cry. I didn't cry when I found out. I didn't cry during the phone call. I was like in shock. But then later that night when I got home and I had laid in bed by myself for the first time, and I was alone for the first time after finding out he died, I said to him, if everything that you ever taught was true, if everything you ever taught is real, then you have to give me a sign. And I was picturing like light bulbs were going to explode, like fireworks, like lights blinking. Like I was picturing crazy stuff happening. None of that happened, but I felt this calling. I felt an urge. I felt something say to me, go to his podcast. And let me just say this. I had never in my life listened to any podcast except Serial, the Adnan. I had listened to that. I don't even know if that was before that or after that, but I had listened to one murder mystery podcast and that was it. I didn't even know that the iPhone comes with an app called podcast, but I just, when you like pull your finger down on your iPhone, it makes a search bubble. I just typed in podcast, app came up, and then I typed in Wayne Dyer and I pushed play on the first one that came up. And it was great to hear his voice, but there were absolutely no cool signs or light bulbs exploding like I wanted. But then just as I was about to close the podcast, the last 15 seconds, he said, now if everybody listening could take a moment and send my daughter Serena some love because she's going through a hard time. And that's when I opened up and I started crying and I knew that he was right there. So that was the first sign that I received from him. And that was the day that he died. But I had so many others, and I've had them from Mason. And I don't think you have to be Wayne Dyer's kid to have them. I think that you have to be open to them. You have to be in alignment with what you're seeking, right? I think that we all have the ability to get the signs, the messages, the synchronicities, the coincidences, whatever you want to call them. We all have that ability, but not if we say, well, it has to come at this time on this day in this package in this bow. It's about being open, truly open, and not attached to how they come. But you sure you want me to tell this story? I'll do it as fast as I can.
Serena, you got as much time as you need.
Okay.
Please do.
So, okay, let me just take a sip of my water. Okay, so as I said before, my husband was indicted and he was going on trial. My stepson Mason and I flew to Maui in May of 2017 so that Mason and I and my two daughters, who were 10 months old and just turned 2 years old at the time, could get away from the stress. We had like this enormous stressful legal case happening here, and my husband was fighting for his freedom. So obviously that's a big deal. So we wanted to get away from the stress. We wanted to get the girls away from the stress. We fly out to Maui. Mason helps me the whole way. And we get out there, and Mason asked after like, I don't know, maybe like a week, he was like, I want to go see my cousins in Texas. Can you get me a ticket? Of course I did. They live on an army base in Texas, actually. But anyway, so I said bye to Mason. I was there with the girls in my dad's condo in Maui, and June 25th. So I had been on Maui at this point for a couple of weeks, like solo with 2 babies around the clock. It's a lot. And my husband's trial was starting June 25th. And I woke up that morning. I was staying in my dad's condo. I was actually staying in his room. And I woke up that morning filled with fear, just enormous fear. And I was terrified. And I was the most desperate that I had ever felt in my entire life. Just desperate to like keep my family together, to keep my husband out of prison. And I was powerless because I was in Maui and he was in Miami. His trial was in Miami. So we were across the globe from each other. And I said out loud to my dad, please help me feel not so alone. Please just let me know that you're still here. I just need a sign. And again, I was like waiting for like light bulbs or something, and nothing happened. And I ended up getting out of bed. Through my religious studies, I learned about the power of actually going on your knees and praying, and how there is actual power in that. And I did that. And I prayed and I just said, please let me know that I'm not alone. I feel so alone. I feel so desperate and afraid. One of my babies who was in the bed started crying, and I got back in the bed and laid with him, and and was scrolling through my phone, and then I hear that ding, which means, you have an email. And I check my email, and it was from somebody that I had as my assistant at the time, Stacy. She had sent me an email saying, I got all of these emails to, I had a website. And so if you clicked like contact me, they would go to my website's email address, not my regular Gmail. So she would check those messages and forward them to me. So anyway, I got a message from Stacy saying, I checked your website and you had a whole bunch of messages. I'm so sorry that I didn't send these. I didn't see them until now, but I'm forwarding like the relevant ones, not the spam. And the first one that I see, now this is 10 minutes after I just asked my dad for a sign. The first one that I see has a subject line that says, if you were to Google me, you would not find anything good, but please give me a second to explain, or something like that. And so I was like, this, so I click it, and it's a man in Russia, like my age. His name's Igor. And he wrote me before June 25th, like a couple weeks ago, but my assistant didn't see it. So I didn't get it until then. But he wrote me to let me know that he had been arrested in 2007 as one of the largest cyber criminals in the world. He was arrested in the United States for operating a cyber crime through Russia. He was doing crazy banking shit. I don't even know what he was doing. It was crazy, crazy stuff. One of the first hackers that there was. A brilliant, brilliant guy, but not doing it for anything good. And he got caught in America, and he was found guilty very quickly. And he was sentenced. He was on Rikers Island, and he was sentenced to over 10 years in prison in Rikers Island. And he wrote to me to explain to me how, while at Rikers Island, feeling nothing but blame and anger toward everybody else but himself, including himself, but mostly everybody else, he was in the library at the prison, and one of my dad's books literally fell off the shelf and hit him in the head. And he took it back to his bunk or cell or whatever you call it, and it was my dad's Tao book, the book about the Tao Te Ching. And he said that it was the first time in his life that he understood what it meant to feel something bigger than himself. And he couldn't get enough. And he started devouring this book and reading it again and again, and then reading all of my dad's books that were at Rikers Island prison, and putting all of the principles in those books to work, manifesting his freedom, picturing an early release, which was not possible. You know how the criminal, well, I don't know if you know, but the criminal justice system, it's not possible to get out early if you're sentenced to a minimum of this. It's just not. So anyway, he was just putting it out there, and he was released after 1 year. And so he had been released since 2009. And it was, no, he had been released, yes, around that, forget the dates, doesn't matter. It was like 2016, and he was suddenly struck by the idea that he hadn't read anything new from my dad in a while. So he Googled my dad's name and saw that he had passed away. But he didn't know that. He didn't know that he had passed away. He had never listened to him on audio. He'd only ever read his books. So anyway, long story short, he goes onto YouTube and he starts downloading all of these videos and podcasts and things of my dad. And then he's interested in my family because he's a fan of my dad. And he finds out that my husband had also been arrested. And he launches a prayer campaign in Russia on my behalf before my husband's trial And I found out about it within 10 minutes of asking my dad for a sign that I wasn't alone. And obviously, I was floored. And I could not believe that I was getting a sign in this way. Then fast forward to my husband being found guilty of one count, sentenced to 7 years after his only son at the time, passed away. And we go to New Orleans so that we can drive to Pensacola, which is where the prison is. I'm dropping him off essentially at this prison. I have a round trip ticket to and from New Orleans. He has a one way. He says goodbye to our daughters. And while we're there in New Orleans, we are getting lost, driving in circles and just not focusing on what we need to do. And he says, let's just stop and get some lunch. So we stop at the Harrah's Casino in New Orleans. This is the only time I've ever been in New Orleans. And he says, let's park the car and then we'll have an easier time. We won't be getting lost. Let's just walk. And I say, okay. And I open the passenger door in this valet area and I close the door. And as I do that, a car comes up and almost hits me, literally almost hits me. And I jump back and I'm like thinking to myself, like, you MFer, you know, like I'm like so angry, but I didn't say anything. And I'm shaking and I look at this car and the front of the car, it's a Mercedes. And I'm looking at it and I'm just like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And I say to my husband, Matt, you have to see this. You have to see this. Come here, come here. And he goes, hold on, my attorney's calling. Hold on 1 second. And I go back, I take out my phone and I snap a photo. I'm going to show it up to your camera. I snap a photo of this front license plate of this car that almost kills me. At the exact moment that my husband is getting a call from his attorney, letting him know that he's going home. He's not going to prison. The judge stayed the prison sentence. And the license plate that I saw in that moment was, oh boy, I can't not, oh, here it is. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. Danger,
Yeah,
frame,
the
frame,
wow.
Mason. It says, Mason, let there be light. You see that?
You can't make this up.
Cannot make this up.
You can't
Mason,
make this
let
up.
there be light. His son,
wow,
just like my dad. That's my whole point of saying you don't have to be Wayne Dyer's kid to have these experiences, because Mason wasn't Wayne Dyer's kid. He was letting me know he was there. He surrounded the danger in his own light. And that's what we all have the choice to do every minute of every day of our lives. So that was my long story. I'm sorry. That was a very long story. I apologize.
And I enjoyed every minute of it. Whoa, that was crazy. That was crazy. It reminds me just of my dad, and he is very similar to you, and he's cognizant of those that have passed away. We'll be talking about somebody, and then a couple fall. Oh, there she goes. She knows we're talking about her. It's just being, and like you said, being aware. I think awareness will open you up, if I'm hearing you correctly, to their presence. Is that correct?
I would say absolutely. Pay attention. I mean, what you focus on, you create. What you focus on expands.
Yes.
So what you think about, you get. So in other words, awareness is another way of saying what you think about, you're going to get more of. You want to have your loved one from the other side give you signs? Start asking for them. And don't be attached to the package that they come in.
Man, this is a lot of knowledge in here. This is a lot of knowledge. Wow. And before we move to the very last segment, which is brand new, the first time I'm going to do it with anybody, I just want to ask you the question, who will benefit the most from this book? Who is this book for?
I mean, honestly, it's for myself because I needed to get it out. I needed to write it. But I think that, I don't know, a parent, anybody that's a parent that has a desire to raise their children in a spiritual household, I think it would be enormously beneficial to see what that was like, because my sister and I had firsthand experience of that. I think anybody that's lost somebody, anybody that is seeking a deeper connection to God, to their highest self. I mean, I could just sell it all day.
I mean, we could just say everybody could benefit from something like
everybody. Yeah. Whether you're 2 or 102, you benefit.
Amen. So the knowing, it's available on all platforms. Is that correct, Serena? I believe it
Yeah.
is. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So everybody, you got to go pick up that book. I don't typically promote people's products on here that frequently, but I mean, hello, this isn't any other product. This is incredible, and I mean that. What you're discussing and the principles, and I say principles that you're sharing with us. So thank you for that. And let's move on to the closing segment. And this is the first thing, and it's 4 questions. First time I'm doing this, folks. So you're listening to this and you're like, well, I never heard this before. That's because you never heard it before. But anyways, the first question is, someone comes running to you, Serena, and they're frantic and they're confused, bewildered, and they come to you with the question. They say, how can I make the most of the one life that I have to live? And you only have 2 minutes to answer them. What would you say?
Get rid of the belief that you only have one life to live. Just be here now. That's all I would say. That's all I would say. It would take me 10 seconds. It's the shortest answer I've ever had in my whole life.
Well, they say that the greatest speakers make the fewest words go the farthest.
I have a lot to learn, but obviously I'm getting it. You know, the further we go into this hour, I'm getting it.
Okay, the second question I have for you is what would those that are closest to you say that makes you special?
I like, and I'm not afraid of telling the truth, and not afraid of telling the truth about myself.
Wow. About yourself. That's not easy. That's not an easy thing to do, Serena.
And it's not a long-term habit. It's a new one, but I'm getting it more and more.
Who is your hero?
I don't have one. I don't need one. I have a lot of admiration for a lot of people, a lot of selfless people, you included, people that, you know, my dad was in the Navy, not the Army, but he was in the Navy. Yep. And all of my ancestors were, actually my husband's family, all of them. But I have an enormous amount of respect for people who don't just say they want to serve. And I don't mean serve in the military. I mean just serve God. Yeah, serve in general, yes. Serve humanity.
Yes.
But they really do it. And they do it without getting praise, recognition, paid. I mean, I have a lot. So if I had to pick a hero, I would say people that serve, people that just want to be of service. Let me just say that St. Francis said that, you know, in this prayer of St. Francis, it's, dear God, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. My dad used to say that this is not a prayer, it's a technology. This is not St. Francis saying, dear God, I don't have any peace, I don't have any love, I don't have any abundance, I don't have any wealth. My mother-in-law, my family is keeping me from this. He's saying, dear God, let me become like what it is I am seeking, and let me offer it to others first. Or in other words, if you seek love and there's no love there, put love and you will find it. It sounds really simple and almost like a play on words, but it's actually the secret of life. Put love, bring it yourself. If you are not, let me say it like this. This might be an easier way to put it. If you are not rich if you are not generous when you are poor, okay? If you are not generous when you are poor, you will not be generous when you are rich. Because generosity has absolutely nothing to do with your circumstances. It has everything to do with who you are. It's like the Tao. The Tao says that the sage is kind to the kind and kind to the unkind, because kindness is his nature. If you seek something, become it, put it there, and the universe will match it times 10. And that is the technology. That is the prayer of St. Francis. Let me become.
And that is so contrary to popular belief. And that's why I love talking to you, because it is so contrary to popular belief. I mean, but people like your father who taught these great things, and anybody truly that is in the personal development field and that type of line of work, everything is about doing things that are contrary to the way that the average person does it. So I love that you share that. And the last thing that I had for you is that, what is it that at the end of your life that you will be able to look back on and know that you accomplished?
I want to say I accomplished love, but I don't know yet. But I think that I have. I think that I think that the people around me feel my love. And more than anything else, that's the only thing I want them to feel. That's the only thing I want them to remember me of, or remember me by. My love for them. No judgment, which of course, we all have judgment. Like, it's so hard not to. But for the people I'm really close to, I would say, I hope they don't feel any judgment. They just feel seen and loved. And if I can take that and spread it beyond just the people that I'm really close to, like my kids or my husband or my family, then I will surely be granted access to heaven, right? I mean, then I will definitely be going through the pearly gates. So I guess that would be my wish, and I hope that I do it, and I think I am.
I think so too. Something tells me that you're up to something good. Well, you
I don't know.
certainly displayed a lot of love with Hear Us today, with being so generous with your time and going so deeply into certain stories. And that, I can't get over that story. That was incredible. I appreciate you and you serving. You talked about people of service. That is what you are doing, and being of service through this podcast, through your book, and through charitable donations and fighting human trafficking and everything that you do. And to your sister as well, who's not with you, but I know that she's instrumental in the process of this book. And I just want to say thank you to the both of you. And thank you, Serena, for being here on the One Life podcast with me today. It's been special.
Thank you, Devin. It's been great for me too.